Oh yeah, for sure. Not to pivot too far, but there was, I think, one moment that we were both interested in spotlighting from, obviously Gavin and I are based out of Kansas City, so we sort of straddle the line between Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. We both grew up in Kansas, and then moved to Kansas City, after high school. But yeah, Claire McCaskill, dude, what the fuck? This was one of the most I did in 2018. I was obviously living in Kansas City, and I voted for Claire McCaskill against Josh Hawley. Obviously it wasn't a fun vote. It was a plug your nose and punch the ballot kind of a deal. Watching this, oh man, it made me regret it a little bit. It made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. But we can watch and let everyone make up their own mind.
Again, Claire McCaskill, former senator from Missouri, now a commentator on MSNBC, where she basically tells candidates how to win elections, despite the fact that she couldn't win her own reelection. And also the one reelection she did win, because she was a two-term senator, but basically she was handed reelection in, I believe, 2012, essentially because her opponent said something completely ridiculous, which was essentially that even children born of rape are still like
God. Oh, I remember that. Yeah. There are no mistakes or whatever the fuck he said, something heinous. Yeah.
That a real rape couldn't actually result in a human baby, because that's not like true, like consensual God's plan, or some ridiculous bullshit that was so gross, so disgusting that he was defeated by Claire McCaskill. But it was not on her own virtue, is all I'm saying. It was only on the disgustingness of her opponent that she won that initial reelection. But yeah, this is just probably her new low, in my opinion.
It's hard to pinpoint. I think it began around cultural issues.
And again, she's talking about why Democrats underperformed. This is her, her reasoning for why Democrats didn't do so well, maybe as well as we had hoped.
Hard to pinpoint. I think it began around cultural issues. The Republican Party, I think, very adroitly adopted cultural issues as part of their main theme, whether you're talking guns or issues surrounding the right to abortion in this country, or things like gay marriage and the right for transsexuals and other people who we as a party have tried to, quote unquote, look after and make sure that they're treated.
Quote unquote, look after.
As we circled those issues, we left some voters behind, and the Republicans dove in with a vengeance.
What's the damn transsexuals' fault, Gavin?
The shift.
Yeah, it was all of the most vulnerable members of society's fault that the Democrats fucking suck. Yeah, that's why. It's the trans people, and it's all these dirty communities of people that the Democrats have taken care of, quote unquote.
Dude, how fucking vile. Oh my God, every time I listen to it, my blood boils, and I just get more disgusted and pissed off and outraged that I supported that. I never publicly supported this woman, right? We both were writing articles chastising her viciously, but Josh Hawley is another person that I have a fucking revulsion towards every time he opens his mouth, and I imagine that he would be using his Senate race as a launch pad for a very sordid and horrible political career, in which he would be my sworn enemy as a resident of Kansas City. So
and that's another thing that makes this so much more ironic, is that Claire McCaskill's here telling Democrats how to win and saying that they're leaning too far into issues like taking people's guns or abortion, gay marriage, and of course transsexuals, as she puts it. Meanwhile, she lost her race, gave the country Josh Hawley, who's of course one of the most competent, I would say, Republicans when it comes to selling faux populism to the masses.
Yeah, the new right, the like Sagar and Jetty kind of like new right populism.
Yeah. But this guy is like a total theocratic-minded lunatic. Definitely has presidential ambitions. Has a lot of ambitions. Wants to be in power. So yeah, Claire McCaskill's.
And he's not even a true populist, guys. Like, I hate that shit, because he voted for Trump's billionaire fucking tax cuts, which is going to raise taxes on working people. So it's not like he's some principled stalwart of the right who just wants to restore family values. It's once again a line of horse shit.
Yep.
Just nice.
And it's what happens. He's what happens when incompetent neoliberalism is the de facto mode of the Democratic Party. When candidates like Claire McCaskill and Nancy Pelosi get to represent the Democratic Party, then it totally opens up a lane for faux populism and fascism. Like a la Josh Hawley. So it's just so ironic that her diagnosis here is directly opposite of what the reality is. She says that, when we start talking about all these issues, we end up leaving voters behind and they end up going to the Republican Party. Well, no, it's not because you're talking about abortion and gay marriage. It's because you're failing to offer, people in places like Missouri actual, tangible, substantive policy measures that could actually, excite them or make them want to vote for you. Claire McCaskill ran a pathetic campaign in 2018 where she
2018,
where she basically tried to. First of all, she ran a racist campaign where she, literally was talking shit on immigrants and trying to kind of out Trump Josh Hawley, a very Amy McGrath style thing where she was like, I'm going to actually run to the right of my opponent in certain issues. Or I don't know, to the right of Josh Hawley, but she definitely ran way to the right of where she should have gone. Meanwhile, that same year, Missouri legalized cannabis, approved a minimum wage hike, all these progressive things. Why didn't you lean into those things?
Once again, rejected right to work.
Yeah. So, again, it was one of these states where the Republicans won on the Senate seat, but down ballot issues actually prove that there's a lot of progressive priorities that people, even in places like Missouri, would support. This is another great point somewhere. I don't know if he makes it in this thread, but Waleed Shahid made the great point in this Twitter thread that Claire McCaskill's current congressperson is Cori Bush. Cori Bush did the opposite of this strategy. Cori Bush leaned into all of her, leftist economic populism. She's, one of the biggest BLM, activists in the country, now elected to Congress. So basically, the congressional race that just went down in Claire McCaskill's own district is kind of proof that this is bullshit.